So as we settle in for our practice this morning, we're shifting to the next of the yamas and niyamas in our research. So we're in the niyamas right now, and we're coming up to the third of the niyamas. This one is called tapas. And the word tapas has several translations, as many of these words do. It might be most famous as the word translated to discipline. And sometimes that gets translated as discipline through purification or purification through discipline. That can be a hard thing to understand in a Western culture where our relationship to discipline has something to do with punishment and our relationship to purification has something to do with being toxic. So I'm going to unpack this with you and for you over the next week or so. I'd like to start this morning with just a period of sitting quietly, and then I'll talk about the various ways that we can explain or define tapas for our own purposes here, with respect for the tradition of yoga, but really being sensitive to the fact that we are Westerners, and when we misinterpret the teaching, it doesn't nourish us more. It doesn't make us more deep in our yoga. It can make us feel more complicated about yoga. So please take your comfortable seat. You can rest your hands in your lap, or I'm going to hold my teacup for right now because it's warmer than I am. You're welcome to close your eyes and let your attention come inward and downward. You take a seat here in the present moment. I'd like us to be able to kind of measure the quality of our own tapas, and to have any kind of measuring or a feeling into something in terms of progress or not. It's helpful to know where we're beginning from. So notice the quality of the mind that you are arriving with this morning for this practice. Yoga teaches us that there are 5 states of mind: disturbed, dull, distracted, one-pointed, and lucid. 5 different kinds of mind states that we might experience at any one time: disturbed, dull, distracted, which is the most common, and then one-pointed or lucid. So just notice what kind of mind state you're arriving with this morning. Yoga as a teaching is encouraging us to move towards the one-pointed or lucid side of that spectrum. So yoga is a path and a practice and a set of tools that helps us not to succumb to disturbed or dull mind states, and not to just be apathetic about or like sort of accepting a constant distracted mind state, but to want to grow towards one-pointed or lucid. So with that as our intention, to be able to come into the more lucid or one-pointed mind states, please raise your hands to your heart. And we'll chant Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu. Let's begin. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Punaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidveshavai Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Punaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidveshavai Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Punaktu Saviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidveshavai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. And with your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart and release your hands. Please open your eyes. So, tapas is the same word that you hear when you go to certain restaurants and you have appetizers. They're called tapas plates. So in this case, we would recommend tapas about the tapas, to have some discipline about how many tapas you are eating. But I digress. So we can translate tapas to mean discipline or purification or austerity, or also the word heat. So if we think of it, it takes heat to purify the physical body, like sweating is one way that we do that. So what has happened here in the West is then we've interpreted that the hot yoga studios are good for tapas because they make a lot of heat and then the body is sweating profusely and you're having the purification. But we also have to ask ourselves then, if I'm thinking of purification, is there something toxic in me? And if I'm purifying, am I also detoxing so that I can go retox? I mean, just to say that some people are doing that. They're detoxing and then they're retoxing. So then they have the detox again to have permission to retox. So this would be one misunderstanding that we have seen here in the West with the phrase tapas. I like to think of tapas as the discipline to stay the course, to put skill into action, even when facing obstacles. And the discipline required to do that is going to have a certain heat within us. And it's the heat that I like to say is the friction, like this, the friction between what we have known or how we have been behaving or what we have been doing and what we now know we want to move towards, or how we ought to be applying yoga to our lives. So the discipline between one way of being and another, the friction that happens between the old and the new, the discipline to choose at the fork in the road. Am I choosing yoga and skillful means? Am I choosing dedication? Am I choosing for my vitality, for my evolution? Or am I giving myself gentleness, which is called mardava? Am I going to be gentle right now and not require myself to grow? And I get to do the old behavior again. There's a friction in there that we ought to respect because we're outgrowing one thing and growing into another. And nowhere in this definition am I using the word punishment as a synonym for discipline. So this discipline isn't about punishing ourselves. It should not feel punishing, in fact. It should feel like life-giving or revitalizing. To have the tapas, the clear and humble discipline to say yes to the practice again and again, and then to be able to say yes to where the practice is leading us. And sometimes that can feel kind of scary because we are transformed to the more and more evolved version of ourselves. And we may not know what that's going to feel like, so we can have some apprehension about that. In terms of the word austerity, in tapas, what that means is to keep a very simple life or to practice a more austere life. In other words, don't overclutter your life. Don't overeat or oversleep or overdo or overpossess or overclutter. You can go back to the teachings in the yamas on aparigraha, non-grasping, non-possessiveness, non-hoarding, and also the teachings on asteya, not taking that which doesn't belong to you, not even taking the opportunity from somebody else to do their personal work. So in tapas, the austerity means to simplify, to live simply, so that we can feel this friction and be purposeful with it. Because if we're living in complexity, it's hard to hear ourselves or to hear that inner wisdom coming through. So that all being said, we will keep unpacking it in the days to come. We'll spend about a week on each of the yamas and the niyamas. So I'd like us to start this morning with a mindfulness practice that we're going to weave through the class. And that'll be a way that you can assess, now what is the quality of my mind? More disturbed, dull, distracted, one-pointed, or lucid? How am I doing with my tapas practice? So please come down to lie on your back with your knees bent, and you can do your feet so they're going to be hip distance apart. When you lie back, just check the periphery that you have the space to take your arms overhead. And you have the space for the legs to also go out. Okay, and then bring your arms down alongside your torso. You're welcome to close your eyes. Now, begin to bring your thinking mind, your habit mind, into the present here by feeling the ground beneath you, the solidity of this ground. And you may notice that there are areas of really obvious sensation. We might call those areas of dense sensation. And then there's going to be areas of lighter sensation or more subtle sensation. Invite yourself to notice these sensations without evaluating them. Just like really bringing your thinking mind directly into the present. Like your shoulder blades are touching the ground. From the perspective of the soles of your feet, these sensations are very fresh. Noticing your mat or the carpet, even if this is a familiar mat or a familiar carpet for you. So as you notice these areas of sensation, then start noticing the way you're noticing. Like what is the quality of the mind that's doing that? Take your arms out into a T shape and experience the back of the elbows, forearms, the backs of your knuckles, resting against the ground. Now, keeping the feet hip distance apart, so you're going to be rolling to the inner and outer edges of the feet. Let's exhale both knees down to the right. And inhale both knees up to center. Notice, would your feet become flat to the floor again? All the sensations of arriving. And then exhale both knees over to your left. Turn your nose to your right. Inhale, roll to center, noticing all the sensations in the feet for arriving back home. And exhale, knees right, nose left. Inhale to center. Exhale, knees left, nose right. Inhale to center. And continue side to side for several breath cycles more. Let's keep the thinking mind, the habit mind, focused on this transition in the feet. Excuse me. Even though there's other transitions and there's other sensations, just notice how the feet are experiencing this particular short yoga activity. So once more to the right. And also once more to the left. Return to center. Notice the sensations of your feet arriving. Now please bring your right knee into your chest, lengthen the left leg straight out on the floor. And as you glide the right knee in, and you lengthen out through your left leg, familiarize yourself again with the kind of footprint that you're making on the yoga mat, from the top of your head down to the back of your heel. Staying present to those sensations, please inhale, raise your right leg to straighten through your heel. And exhale, bend your right knee. Inhale, straighten. Now, of course, you could keep the hands clasped behind your hamstring, just as I'm doing. Perhaps your leg doesn't straighten all the way. So the moving part here is your right knee, your right shin, your right ankle. And pretty much everything else is stable, including your mind, to the best of your ability. And you're noticing all the sensations of your connection to the ground, even though the sensation of stretching your right leg might feel more dynamic. And once more, exhale, squeeze your right knee to your chest. Go ahead and bend the knee. And then reach up with a yoga strap or with your fingers to hold your right foot in the pose called Supta Padangusthasana. And even though the right leg might be really dynamic, and that's very interesting and sensational, put your mind down at the ground where you can sense this sort of constancy of present moment attention. If you breathe into those sensations, it helps to place your mind and your breath in your body in the same location. So you could choose, let's use the back of the left calf and the back of the left heel as a destination. Let's breathe in there and place the mind consistently in that location. Even though the right leg might seem more dynamic or more dramatic. Place a yoga block at the outside of your right hip. And what you can do is lift the hip just a little bit and slide the block under the outer thigh bone there. Hold your yoga strap or your foot with just your right hand. And while you keep your mind focused at your left calf, open your right leg out to the right. Notice the back of the left calf and heel. They are placed for your thinking mind to keep returning. As you breathe into those sensations, don't ask those sensations to be somehow more entertaining or varied or somehow less boring. Stay with the sensation to feel what's ever fresh there, while also noticing this is having an influence on the mind. At the same time, you're probably getting some feedback from yourself, about yourself, from what the mind is doing or what it is struggling to do. To bend your right knee, holding your strap or your foot with your right hand. Reach up and also hold it with your left hand. And let's bring the right ankle up towards the left shoulder. So you can take the right hand under your calf and ankle to hold around the outside. Open the right knee away from your right shoulder. And when you're bringing your right heel up towards your left shoulder, keep it lifted away from your pelvis a good 12 inches or so. And let the mind rest at the back of the left calf. Your mind isn't running about busily commenting on every little nuance in your physical yoga pose. And then holding your right ankle with your left hand, bring your left ankle down onto your right ankle onto your left thigh, please. And tip the right knee open towards the floor. And as it tips down towards the floor, try keeping your thinking mind down there at the back of your left calf and heel. Let's keep the pelvis level. Your block might come in handy under the outside of your right thigh. Raise your right knee up towards the ceiling. Place the right foot then flat on the floor. Place your left foot also flat on the floor and come back to where we started. And deeply relax your mind and your breath and your body. And see if you can sort of move back in your awareness to just observing now what is the quality of your mind from having a period of concentration. And take the right leg straight out on the floor. Place the block on the left side at the ready and bring your left knee up towards your chest. Okay, so with the left thigh coming snugly in towards your heart, lengthen out through your right leg into the back of your heel. And inhale, raise your left heel up towards the ceiling. Even if you can't straighten your leg. And exhale, glide that down. Relax your thinking mind into the back of your right calf and heel. Really inviting the frog-like nature of the mind to have a place to be consistent. Even if the sensations of the left leg are really fascinating, place the habit mind, the judging mind, your thinking mind into the back of your right calf. And the next time that you take your left leg up straight, go ahead and reach for your strap or hold your foot with both hands. If you're choosing not to use a strap, that's because it feels really relaxing to choose
just using the hands on the foot, you're not straining anywhere. And then roll the left hip up, slide your block under the back of your outer thigh bone there. And relax the mind again and again, down to the back of the calf or the back of the heel. We're going to hold the strap or the foot with just the left hand and start going really slowly out to the side. There's so much wonderful information in the fresh experience of the present. Let the thinking mind be intrigued by, even enamored about the back of your heel, the back of your calf. Subtract any sense of pressure in your system, particularly if you have the habit of pressuring your physical body to somehow be more adept at yoga poses. Subtract that pressure and use the resource that pressure occupies to place it in the mind at the back of your calf. And start to bend your left knee. And we're going to hold the left ankle with the right hand, or the strap with your right hand. Take the left hand under and to the back outer side of the ankle. And as you're bringing your left foot up towards your right shoulder, keep it about 12 inches or so from your right thigh. Some of you will find that it's convenient that your left elbow can press into your left thigh. Relax the habitual mind and place it at the back of your calf, the back of your heel. You always have a sense of where home base is, or that sense of the home ground for the mind. And then holding the strap or your foot with just your right hand, start to open your left knee. And place your left ankle, on your right thigh. You might take the block and place it down to support your left thigh as well. Do your best to keep the hips level so your pelvis is not tipping over to your left. And then raise your left knee up. Place the left foot and your right foot each flat on the floor. And again, back up into your kind of witness or observer mind and see what now is the quality of the mind. And please roll to your side. And come up to sitting and then up to standing. And when we come up to stand, take a wide stand the length of one leg. And what you can do is have your yoga blocks nearby if you need them. I want to just check what the chat says, since I can't read it from back there. Oh, shoot, my camera is out. Just a moment, please. So what we're going to do is use a student image as our model, because my camera battery is asking for that.
Let me just see. I think Carol is here. Let me spotlight her sometimes. There we go. Thank you, Carol. Okay, let's take a wide stance, please, on the yoga mat. And the wide stance is going to be one leg length left to right. Go ahead and put blocks down on the floor if you're someone for whom your hamstrings are a little bit stiff. And then come down to Prasarita Padottanasana. Now, when you first come down, take notice of your footprints on the ground. And let your breath go down to meet your heels and toes. You could even imagine the breath as like an ambassador. It's guiding the mind to go down to the feet. And then let the pose rock a little bit front and a little bit back. So you're just going to feel how your feet respond when you move your body weight slightly forward, slightly back. And bring that to center where your feet recognize home base. And then glide both hips to your left and to your right. And try to go smoothly side to side. So as you bring your body weight towards your right hip and right leg, the right foot's going to feel potentially more responsibility. And as you glide to center and across to the other leg, notice how your feet transition in terms of sensations, how much pressure, how dense or subtle. As you're gliding side to side with the pelvis, do your best to keep the legs straight so you are really shifting over the hip joint, the hip and thigh joint. And the next time that you're passing through center, go ahead and pause there. And please turn the right toes very slightly out to the right and bend your right knee deeply. Walk your hands to the right, perhaps even bring your blocks over to the right. And as you bend the right knee, keep the left leg straight and strong. Drop your hips back so your body weight is in your right heel, even a little bit more than your toes. And place the thinking mind, this sort of frog-like nature of the mind, place it in the back of your right heel, where your heel touches the ground. And if you find that it's really difficult to keep your mind resting there, it's possible that you're working too hard in your physical pose. You've gone past your physical threshold in the pose. Your mind is heavily distracted. Or sometimes it might be a sign that you're not deep enough in your pose. So let it be an exploration, a place that you could be in the yoga pose where your mind actually becomes more still. Press into your right heel to slowly straighten the right leg. Make that foot parallel again and turn the left toes very slightly out. Bend your left knee deeply and come down to the left side. Keeping your right leg strong, place your thinking mind into your left heel. The quality of the mind is one way that we can really learn about ourselves. What is our threshold in a yoga pose? If the mind goes to disturbed, we're probably past our threshold. We're probably not really in the yoga anymore. And find the place in this physical pose where, in fact, your mind stays at the left heel and it's joyfully present there. And press down through your left foot. Inhale, raise back up to center. Let's make the 2 feet parallel. Walk your hands forward in this pose, almost like the torso is doing downward dog pose. As the hands walk forward, reach way back with your hips. And please bend both knees as if you're going to sit your hips back on a little
piano bench that's behind you. Encourage your mind to be resting at the heels. You can use the breath as the ambassador, the usher for the mind to take its seat there at the heels. And then root down through your heels and slowly straighten your legs. Walk your hands back towards your hips. And please rise up to standing. When you come up to stand, let's go heel toe to center. And then come to mountain pose for a few moments and let the mind bask in the present. Nothing more to do. Feel how right there in the present, everything you need is with you. Okay, let's place a wide stance again. So take the feet out to one leg length. Bring your hands to your hips. Turn the left heel slightly out to the left. Turn your right toes directly to the right. This is for Warrior Two pose. Face the hips and the heart on the long side of the mat. So for Warrior Two, sweep your arms wide out to the left and the right. And then please bend your right knee and come into Virabhadrasana 2. Gaze over your right fingertips. Thank you, Carol. Yeah. As you're gazing to the right, it might seem sort of paradoxical. I'm going to ask you to place your thinking mind down into your left heel. Imagine that like a taproot that's physical but also mental. And as you breathe into your left heel, ask your commenting, judging, evaluating mind to get really quiet. Give it the assignment of just noticing these are the sensations of your left foot. Using your body intelligence, like your intuition, glide your left sitting bone towards your right sitting bone. And from your right sitting bone, lengthen towards your right knee. So your warrior pose is going to start feeling more spacious, maybe more stable. The mind stays back there at the left heel. From the center of the spine, reach outward through both arms to your fingers. Lengthen up through the crown of the skull. As you notice the left heel, inhale, straighten your right leg. Relax both arms. Turn your right foot in, and then turn the left foot to be parallel with the mat. And pick up the right heel, step it out to the right. Turn your left foot directly to the left. Give your thinking mind a place to land in your right heel and sweep the arms wide. And then bend the left knee and come down into Warrior Two. Now, if you truly place your mind in the right footprint, and you're not doing it to then go tinker or be like an archaeologist of any kind, we're just placing the mind there to keep it from commenting, from rummaging about in all the criticisms. So keeping that there, breathe down into your right heel. And then glide your right sitting bone towards your left sitting bone. And from your left sitting bone, lengthen through your hamstring into your left knee. Almost the feeling that someone's giving you traction on your left thigh.
In the center of the spine, encourage the arms to be wider and more spacious. Lengthen up through the crown of your skull. All the while, the right heel is grounded, and so too is your mind. As you next inhale, start straightening the left leg really slowly and notice how the right heel experiences the transition. Relax both arms and turn the feet to be parallel once again. And then we'll go heel, toe into center. Come back to mountain pose, please. Notice in mountain pose, what is the quality of your mind? What can you come to learn about? And let's take the 2 yoga blocks and come to the front of your yoga mat, please. For surya namaskar. Thank you, Carol. The camera heated up and then so I turned it off. It's heated back down. And if it happens again, I'll do it again. So come to the front of your mat, please. Bring your palms together at your heart. Okay, now using the Ujjayi breath, so we're going to bring that in, that little Ujjayi whisper. It's a certain feeling in the back of the throat when you're breathing. It's almost the sensation of yawning at the back of the throat. So it's hollow and open there. So with that whispering quality and the sound of the breath, inhale the hands down, wide and up. And as you exhale, come down to chair pose, Utkatasana. Notice your heels on the ground. Exhale, transition to Uttanasana. Inhale, glide forward through your heart. Exhale, step back with the left toes. Press into your right heel, and as you rise, keep your mind grounded, but lift your arms, your heart, and your gaze. So the mind can stay down there at the right heel, so it's not ruminating, it's not reviewing, it's not planning, critiquing, assessing, all the things. And as you exhale, sweep the arms wide, come slowly forward and touch the 2 blocks or the floor. Inhale, step forward, heart forward. And exhale for a deep bow towards your legs. Inhale, glide forward. Exhale, right toes back. Inhale, rise slowly. The mind stays firmly fixed at your left heel. And follow your next exhale to come smoothly, slowly forward. Inhale, step forward, heart forward. And exhale to deeply bow towards the legs. Inhale, rise up, upward hands pose. Place the mind in your heels. Exhale, hands to your heart. Continuing, inhale. So we're kind of tethering the mind to one place in the present moment. Come down to chair pose, Utkatasana. And then exhale, pour yourself down to Uttanasana. Inhale, glide the heart forward. Exhale, left toes straight back. Inhale, rise smoothly. And without your mind leaving your right heel, and one of the things that happens in this transition is people go to the back foot much too soon. So keep your attention on the right heel, keep it round and smooth and grounded, and let that translate as stability up through your right leg, even into your right hip joint. And as you exhale, start rotating open to warrior two. But don't rush the left heel to the floor behind you. It's going to come down. It will find its way. And so you arrive in warrior two, and this foundation from your right foot to your hip has been stable. That is my hope for you. Turn the right hand skyward. Inhale, rise up with your right arm, walk down with your left. And exhale and windmill the arms over, keeping your legs very stable. Bring your fingertips back to your blocks or to the floor. Press into your right heel, walk your fingers forward of your front foot on the floor or on your blocks. Keeping your right heel grounded, allow the face to relax. Relax your eyes and your tongue. And each time your mind finds its, let's say, silky smooth as it's connected to the right heel, you're probably within your yoga threshold. When you find that the mind is hardening or distracting or getting agitated, you've probably passed your threshold. In that case, we always recommend backing up slightly in the physical pose or taking a pause, refreshing your attention. Let's walk the hands back to these two blocks. Place your hands firmly on the blocks and step to plank pose. And notice the temperature that's going to go down your right leg. And then raise your hips high, come into downward dog pose. And exhale, step forward with your left foot. Place your mind into your left heel. Rise up. And keeping the left heel very stable. So that's going to communicate into your left hip joint. Begin to rotate really slowly to warrior two. Your back heel will find its way. Turn your left hand skyward. Rise up with your left arm, walk down with your right. Keeping the mind focused and steady. This is not an easy task, but it's really worthwhile. Let's exhale, windmill the arms over, touch the two blocks or the floor. Keep the legs really stable. And you can walk forward. Relax the weight of your head and also your face. Your eyes and your tongue can be at ease. Place your mind into your left heel print. And let the information there tell you if you are within your yoga threshold or if you've gone beyond it. We always have permission in yoga to recalibrate, to adapt a yoga pose to be yoga. Place the hands back on the two blocks, press firmly into your hands and arms, and step to plank pose, noticing that the right leg is going to change in temperature. Okay, touch the knees down and sit back to Vajrasana. So that in Vajrasana, you're going to be able to sense, okay, what is the quality of the mind when you arrive here? So relax all effort and kind of move back into your your observer, your benevolent witness. And you can sense from there, what is the quality of the mind now? Bring yourself over to kneeling with a couple of blocks at the ready. Come up to your high knees like this. Okay, and step your right foot out to the side. Now, to place the right foot out to the side like that, and the toes are pointing in that direction, the hips will not be at 180 over here. Right, so if I turn my pelvis to be this sort of 180 that you might have heard stories about, because of the shape of the hip socket and how the thigh and the hip socket meet, when you turn, you end up pushing the thigh forward. So my leg goes into this internal rotation right there. So we want to have the pelvis allow for the alignment of the thigh bone. So right here, then you can lift the pubic bone up, and my pelvis is at this angle. I don't even know what the number is, but it's not over here like that, it's here. Okay, with that in mind, now bend the right knee and glide towards your right heel. Whatever amount the inner thighs can do. You're also going to have to consider the amount that the back hip can do. Now, so at the moment, when I've come through here, this is as far as the back hip will go because it's what we would call bone on bone, but in my case, it's titanium on bone. So what you do with the back foot is turn it slightly out. And that allows you to come a little further because you've rotated the femur here internally. This one, the right one is external. The left one is a little bit internal right now. You can feel into the inner groin and the pelvis. Press into the right heel for support. And then glide that back up to center. So if you had to adjust your back shin on the way down, if you were making that adjustment, one thing you might consider is see where my hips are. The angle of my shin makes sense according to the hips. Now, maybe I didn't learn about that shin angle from here. I might have had to learn it by experience. Right there, I'm blocked. So I take the heel and the shin, and it gives more movement. Turns out that that happens to be the supportive angle for the pelvis here too. Let's go to the other side. So step the left leg out to the left. And let's try to make the hips level, like left to right level. But again, if I try to bring this hip forward to 180, not only does my hip have to hike up, but it tips my knee and my thigh in and down towards the floor. So look for where this is level. And this is straight and easeful. Notice what your angle is. And let's take the learning from the first side and put the shin, the back shin, in line with the pelvis. And then glide down to your left. And you might be saying hello to the inner thighs, but let the mind return now to the left heel. By the way, I'm in a very padded situation here. I have a soundproofing fabric, and then I have a carpet, and then I have a yoga mat. You might need to put a blanket under your knee or some kind of support like that. Okay, let's glide back up to center. So this angle made sense to your pelvis and hopefully to your shin, and you had the mobility that your pelvis would have needed. You bring the right shin in, bring the left shin in, take a seat in Vajrasana for a moment. Okay, so we learn about the mechanics of the body by experimentation. It's also helpful to have a teacher who has your side view mirrors or your rear view mirror. We can kind of see the surround for you sometimes. And on that note, by the way, don't forget there's a new series on the schedule called Mechanics and Mindfulness, which is going to give you a chance for individualized attention from the teacher who's leading the series. So those are small group sessions, and you can look at the Daya Foundation schedule to see when that's happening. And I know that this month they're focusing on the mechanics of standing poses lateral standing poses, which is what these are called, like warrior two and so on. Okay, so that exploration is the beginning of what we call gate pose. So now you need the two blocks. Come on up to your standing on your left knee, turn the right foot out, and let that educate you about where to put the left shin. So you've got this alignment already set. And we have our blocks. I'm not very tall, and I've got these blocks on the tall setting, so you might want to go for it with the tall setting. Let's take the block for the right hand, place it here. Okay, let the pelvis tip in its natural arc, like this. Place your right hand on a block, tall, medium, or small, and sweep the left arm overhead. This is called gate pose. Reach through the top arm. Most importantly, root down into your left thigh, your left shin. Tone your left hip. And notice the quality of the mind that you've brought with you from all that mindfulness practice. When you arrive here in this little yoga adventure, what is the mind quality that you brought with you? More disturbed, more dull, more distracted, more one-pointed, or more lucid? Now connect to your left low belly and your left thigh and shin. And as you exhale, raise yourself up. Release the left arm down and bend your right knee. Glide towards your right leg. And in that glide, place your right hand on the block again. And as you're gliding, keep the tailbone lengthened towards the back knee. Some of you are going to find that it's easier to put this block on the inside, especially if you have a hip replacement, like I do. And then sweep the left arm overhead again. Yeah, good. Press into your right heel. Open the right knee so it stays in line with your right toes. Tone your right outer hip. Even the hamstring wants to be toned. And then as you next exhale, tone the left low belly and pull yourself up to where we started. And then we have our blocks. Let's change sides. So the quality of mind, or the mindfulness mind that we were cultivating, I hope that comes with you now, that these investigations, that you're not having the radio broadcast of like inadequacy about your body or some perceived flaw about your yoga pose, that you're really in the kind of one-pointed, delighting in learning about your body. Okay, so set up the left leg, the hips, check your back shin is lining up with what your capacity is, the angle that you need to be. Sweep the arms wide. Tip the pelvis over. Bring the right arm up alongside your right ear. So press firmly into your right outer hip. The pelvis doesn't wander to the right on this pose. We've rotated the pelvis over the strength of both legs, kind of like a water wheel. Press into your right shin, your right thigh, even squeeze the right butt muscles. That means tone them. Doesn't mean reach back and touch them to squeeze them. You can do that too, but I meant tone your right hip muscles. With your exhale, connect into your right low belly. Raise yourself up. Release your right arm. And then glide to your left. Some of you are going to find that it's easier for you to put this block on the inside. It doesn't just have to be because you had a hip replacement. Thank you for your efforts. And let's connect into the right low belly and draw back up to where you started. And then release the left leg and the right leg. Come to Vajrasana, like this. So with what you're releasing in the hips and pelvis, whatever holding pattern has been there, there can be this place now for the mind to drop back into the body, to come back home. And this works on the principle in yoga called the vayus. When we kind of empty out the residue in the pelvis or this feeling of tension there, is that we can come back and inhabit the home, this home here, which is where the vata dosha lives. It lives in the home of the pelvis. So balancing our vayus and doshas is something that we're also doing in the yoga practice. I'd like you to come down onto your back with 2 blocks close by, please. Excuse me. So if vata dosha can come back home to the pelvis, it's less likely to be moving the ceiling fan of the mind into all that disturbed activity or that constantly distracted activity. Now we're going to take these 2 blocks. Please place them under your feet on the flat setting. Root down into both heels. Raise the tailbone up and towards your knees. So that's like the lower body part of bridge pose, the lower hemisphere of bridge pose. Let's keep the legs pretty stable and tuck one shoulder at a time underneath. Place your arms down your mat lengthwise. Turn your palms face down. And as you raise up to this bridge pose, press your heels into your blocks and press your mind into your heels, using the breath as your mental ambassador, the mental usher. And your palms face up, and as you exhale, roll your spine down slowly, slowly, keeping your mind at your heels. Curl the lower back down at the bottom there. Now put the 2 blocks aside. Place your heels so that they're just on the regular floor. And you get to now experiment with, how do you make a choice when it comes to a fork in the road and you're going to be choosing between an old mental habit or a yogically recommended mental habit? So if the mind state that's recommended is one-pointed or lucid, how do you make that choice? Particularly if an old habit might include striving, pushing, competing, giving up, deflating, criticizing, all those things. So cross your right ankle over your left knee. Press the left knee open. Press into your left heel. And as you lift your tailbone, begin to slowly raise up to this variation of bridge pose. We're just going to do the lower hemisphere part of the pose. So when you come up, check and see if the hips have been able to stay level. So how high is the height for your yoga? Not only what's happening with the breath, but what also is happening with your mind and your ability to stay with that mindfulness tool at the left heel. And exhale, lower the pelvis down. Place your right foot back on the floor, left foot on the floor. Press the left knee open. Connect to the roundness of your right heel as you raise up to the lower half of bridge pose.
So if what happens at the fork in the road for you is that the yoga kind of obliterates and you're back in dull or disturbed mind, then come partway down in your pose until you feel like, oh, you're in the yoga, right? So it's like operating the knob on the gas stove. How much heat is needed right now? What is the appropriate place? And then exhale and curl the pelvis back down. Now bring your blocks within reach of your hands. Cross your right ankle over your left knee. And then this position right here, we call this figure four. We're going to keep the legs like this, but tip them down to your left side. And the purpose of the blocks is that you could put a block so that your right foot ends up standing on the block. With your left hand, you could hold your right ankle and press the right knee away from you, away from the torso. Lengthen your right thigh as if it were like a telescope from your hip to your knee. And then raise your figure four pose back up to center. Place the right foot on the floor. Cross your left ankle over your right thigh. And come down to your left. So you're standing. I'm sorry, come down to your right. So you're standing on your block. And press the left knee open away from your chest. Stretch the left arm. Notice the quality of your mind right now, intending to your body in this pose. And then exhale and roll this one also back up to center. And stretch your legs out. Come to Shavasana. And notice again, here you are on the ground, same yoga mat, same carpet, same clothing. So many things are the same, but is the quality of the mind more fresh? And your body experiences these sensations as happening right now, freshly in the present moment. Your mind to relax into any point of contact you have with the ground. So your thinking mind knows it has a place to land. Welcome your mind and your body to deeply relax. So yoga is doing its work inside right now. The mind to stay deeply present, inwardly quiet. Your body might get heavier with relaxation. Just any place in the physical body where you might relax a bit more deeply, like between the webbings of the fingers and the toes, or at the corners of your eyes. And begin to wiggle your toes and your fingers. Roll your head a little bit side to side. Bend your knees. And as you roll to your side, we now come to the like the apex of the practice, that which yoga is really hailing or recommending. So please find your seat for meditation. It is said that we have this physical practice. It's wonderful and transformational, but it's at the layer of the mind, Manomaya Kosha, that we're kind of at another fork in the road. Will we go deep into the yoga, or now will we just start planning? And then we feel better about the life we go back to, but we may not be transforming the life that we're living.
And find your upright seat. I think there's ways in which the physical practice have prepared you to take this seat with a relative ease in accessing mental quiet. If possible, the mind is just resting and you're sitting with the company of your benevolent witness. You're in the presence of simple consciousness. If that's not what's happening, then back up a step and place your thinking mind in the sensations of the ground beneath you. For anyone for whom it's more helpful, place their thinking mind at the ground. That is a building block. So it's not a reflection of any kind of deficit. It's only saying we have some brain repair to do, some building blocks to create. For those who are resting in mental quiet right now, we can also extend that out to those who are learning about mental quiet. Be at peace in the quietude. If you're working on mindfulness of the ground beneath you, just remain really consistent. To rest in the simplicity, either the simplicity of feeling that hum of consciousness or the simplicity of the mindfulness tool. Turn your palms face up on your lap, please. And welcoming into your heart anyone who might need a practice like this, or who might need an ounce of mental peace or quiet. Raise your hands to your heart and bring also into your heart awareness of the dilemmas on the planet that are actually our responsibility. And see if you can stay in this consciousness or mindfulness and welcome this too to also be true. The war in Ukraine is not more true than consciousness or grace. So welcome it to also be true. The wisdom or peace that we access during our practice, may that love to which we are all being returned, may that shine forth today in our speech, in our thoughts, in our actions, in all of our relationships. And may it emanate outwards to those who are suffering, or those who are in the crossfire, or those who are causing suffering. Thank you everyone for being here this morning. I'd like us to do the chant for the well-being of the world. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. Thank you also to Carol for substituting on the spotlight when we needed the support.